The words hit me like a physical blow. Leo, you are just below my standards. My wife Clara said this over a dinner I'd cooked. She wasn't even angry. She was calm, as if stating a simple fact like the sky is blue. I looked at my plate, the grilled chicken suddenly seeming unappetizing. For 7 years, I thought we were happy. I worked as a mid-level graphic designer, a job I enjoyed. I came home early, made dinner, and listened to her talk about her day as a marketing manager. I thought I was being a good husband. I guess I was wrong. That night, I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling. The space between us felt like a mile. The man lying there was broken, but a tiny, stubborn part of me decided this was not the end. Silence the next morning was heavy. Clara moved around the kitchen as if nothing had happened. She drank her coffee, scrolling through her phone. I watched her, waiting for any sign that she regretted her words. There was none. "I have a late meeting tonight," she said, not looking at me. "Don't wait up." It was a clear dismissal. I simply nodded. I went to my job, but my heart wasn't in it. My designs felt flat and uninspired. All I could hear was her voice on a loop in my head. Below my standards. What standards? I paid my share of the bills. I was faithful. I loved her. It wasn't enough. I felt a deep shame I hadn't felt since I was a kid. A week passed. The coldness in our home was unbearable. I decided to try one more time. I booked a table at her favorite restaurant, the fancy one she always said we couldn't afford. I wore my best suit. When she came home, I presented the plan with a hopeful smile. She sighed, looking tired. "Leo, that's a waste of money, and that suit is 3 years out of style." The hope inside me shattered. "I just thought we could talk," I said softly. "Talk about what?" she replied. "There's nothing more to say." She walked away, and I was left standing in the hallway, holding the reservation confirmation on my phone. That was the moment I finally understood. She had stopped seeing me as her husband. Something inside me snapped. The feeling of shame began to harden into something else. Resolve. I couldn't change her mind, but I could change myself. That night I went into the small home office we shared. I opened my laptop and started researching. I looked up courses for advanced design software. I read about the top design firms in the country. I found a portfolio of a famous designer, a man named Arthur Finch. His work was breathtaking. A crazy idea started to form in my mind. What if I could be that good? What if I could become more than Clara could ever imagine? It was a wild, terrifying thought, but it was the only thing that gave me hope. The first step was the hardest. I enrolled in an intensive online certification course. It was expensive and would take 6 months of late nights. I told Clara I was taking on extra freelance work to help with savings. She just shrugged and said, "Finally taking some financial initiative." Her approval, even a backhanded one, stung. I set up a small desk in the corner of our basement. It became my sanctuary. After Clara went to sleep, I would go downstairs and lose myself in lessons about typography, color theory, and 3D modeling. It was exhausting, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of purpose. My days became a grueling routine. Up at 6 a.m., work from 9 to 5, home by 6, make dinner, then descend into the basement until past midnight. Clara barely noticed my absence. She was busy with her own career, often coming home late. We were like two ghosts passing in the hallways. My old friends noticed I was distant. I stopped answering their calls to hang out. I had no energy for anything but my goal. My social life died. But with every new skill I mastered, I felt a piece of my old, insecure self fade away. I was building a new person brick by brick in that cold basement. 6 months later, I completed the course at the top of my class. My final project was so good that my instructor, a retired industry pro, emailed me personally. He said my work was exceptional and asked if I was looking for a new job. My heart raced. This was the first external confirmation that I was on the right path. I updated my portfolio with my new advanced work. It looked nothing like the simple designs I did for my current job. It was bold, innovative, and sophisticated. I looked at my old portfolio and finally saw what Clara might have seen: someone playing it safe, someone with no ambition. Not anymore. With my new portfolio, I started applying for jobs, not just any jobs. I applied only to the top-tier design agencies in the city, the ones whose names were whispered with respect. I got rejections, lots of them, but I also got a few first-round interviews. I used my savings to hire a career coach to help me with my interview skills. I practiced until I could confidently talk about my vision and my work. The shy, quiet Leo was gone. I was becoming someone who knew his own worth. Clara, oblivious, sometimes commented that I seemed different. "You've lost weight," she said one day, almost like an accusation. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday. I got a call from Nova Studios, the most prestigious design firm in the state. They wanted a final interview. The role was for a senior visual designer. The salary was almost triple what I made now. I was terrified and excited. The interview was with the creative director, a woman known for being tough. I walked into their sleek, modern office feeling like an imposter. But when I started talking about my work, my passion took over. I saw her nod, a slow smile spreading across her face. She offered me the job on the spot. I walked out of that building feeling like I was floating. I gave my 2 weeks' notice at my old job. My boss was shocked and tried to convince me to stay. I politely declined. The news seemed to travel to Clara. That night she was home early. I heard you're leaving your job, she said, her arms crossed. That's a reckless move, Leo, in this economy. I simply smiled and said, I got a better offer. I didn't tell her the details. For the first time, I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes. She was used to knowing everything about my life. My silence was a new wall she couldn't climb. It felt powerful. My first day at Nova was intimidating. The office was full of brilliant, talented people. The projects were for huge, global brands I had only read about. I worked harder than I ever had before. I stayed late, volunteered for tough projects, and became known as the guy who delivered flawless work. The creative director, Ms. Evans, took me under her wing. She saw my potential and pushed me to be even better. My confidence, which I had been faking, started to become real. I started dressing sharper, buying clothes that fit my new frame and my new life. I was evolving. The money from the new job changed things. I opened my own bank account. I started paying my half of the mortgage from my new account, but I stopped contributing to our shared expenses fund. Clara noticed immediately. What's going on with the finances, Leo? She asked, her voice tight. I'm just managing my money differently, I replied calmly. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was a controller and I was taking away her control. She didn't like it. She tried to start a fight, but I just smiled and went to the gym, another new habit. I was untouchable. A year after I started at Nova, I led a campaign that won a major international award. My name was mentioned in industry magazines. Colleagues congratulated me. Ms. Evans gave me a substantial raise and a promotion to lead designer. I was now a recognized name in my field. The irony was delicious. Clara, who worked in marketing, started hearing my name from her own colleagues. Is that your Leo? One of them asked her. She came home that night looking pale. You didn't tell me you won the Apex Award, she said, her voice a mixture of shock and accusation. You never asked, I said. The dynamic in our house had completely flipped. Clara started trying. She cooked dinner. She asked about my day. She tried to initiate intimacy, but the love I had for her was gone. It had been crushed under the weight of her disdain and my year of solitary growth. I was polite but distant. I saw the panic growing in her eyes. She was realizing that the man she had dismissed was now the man everyone wanted, and he was slipping through her fingers. She started making grand gestures, planning expensive vacations I had no interest in. It was too late. The final turning point was the company gala. Nova's annual event was a black tie affair attended by the city's elite. I was expected to be there as a key award winner. I bought a custom-tailored tuxedo. When I put it on, I barely recognized the man in the mirror. I looked successful, confident, and strong. Clara, seeing me, gasped. You look amazing, she whispered. She spent hours getting ready, choosing a stunning dress. For a moment, I saw the beautiful woman I had fallen in love with. But the memory of her words was a shield around my heart. At the gala, I was in my element. People wanted to talk to me. Ms. Evans introduced me to important clients as her star designer. I was charming and funny, a version of myself I had created in the basement. Clara clung to my arm, smiling brightly, playing the part of the proud wife, but I could feel her anxiety. She was an outsider in my world. During a quiet moment, she looked at me and said, I had no idea you could be this. I looked back at her, my expression neutral. This is the man you said was below your standards, I replied softly. The color drained from her face. The car ride home was silent. The moment we walked through the door, Clara broke. I'm so sorry, Leo, she cried. I was stupid, I was stressed, I didn't mean any of it. Look at you now, you're everything I ever wanted. She was sobbing, begging for another chance. I looked at her, feeling a strange emptiness. The apology I had craved for so long now meant nothing. You're right, Clara, I said calmly. I am everything you ever wanted, but the problem is I don't want you anymore. The words hung in the air, final and absolute. I had already contacted a lawyer. The next day I sat her down and told her I wanted a divorce. She was hysterical, she pleaded, she bargained, she got angry, she called me cruel. You changed, she yelled. You became this cold, different person. You asked me to change, I reminded her. You just didn't expect me to succeed. I moved into a luxury apartment downtown that same week. The freedom was exhilarating. I was no longer living in the shadow of someone's disapproval. I was my own man, defined by my own achievements and my own self-respect. The divorce proceedings were messy, as they often are. Clara fought over every piece of furniture, every dollar. She tried to lay claim to my new success, arguing that my growth happened during the marriage. My lawyer was excellent. In the end, we reached a settlement. I kept what was mine, my earnings from Nova and my future. She kept the house. Signing the final papers was a surreal experience. It was the official end of a chapter of my life that had started with so much love and ended with so much pain. I felt a profound sense of closure. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was at a tech launch party. I was happy talking with friends, then I saw her. Clara was across the room, looking tired and a little older. She saw me and made her way over. Leo, she said, her voice small. You look well. I thanked her. There was an awkward pause. I heard you're dating that journalist Sarah Miles, she said. It was true. Sarah was brilliant, kind, and she adored me for who I was now. Yes, I said simply. Clara's eyes filled with tears. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me, she whispered. I didn't know what to say. I felt no pleasure in her pain, only a distant pity. The man she was crying over was a man she had helped create by breaking the man I used to be. I hope you find happiness, Clara, I said, and I meant it. I excused myself and walked back to my friends to my new life. The encounter solidified everything for me. I had not become successful out of spite, I had done it for myself. Her regret was just a footnote in my story, not the climax. Life moved on. My career continued to soar. I started my own small design consultancy with Ms. Evans and it was a wild success. Sarah and I grew closer. She was everything Clara wasn't, supportive, encouraging, and genuinely proud of my achievements without ever making me feel like I had to prove myself. With her, I learned what a real partnership felt like. It was built on mutual respect, a foundation that had been completely absent in my marriage. I was finally happy, truly and completely. A year later, I ran into an old mutual friend. She told me Clara was still single. She had thrown herself into her work but was struggling. Apparently, she compared every man she met to me to the man I had become. She told her friends she had made the biggest mistake of her life. The friend looked at me expecting a reaction. I just shrugged. Clara's life was no longer my concern. Her journey was hers alone, just as mine was my own. The chains of her judgment had been broken long ago. Sometimes in my quiet moments I think about that night at the dinner table. I don't feel anger anymore. In a strange way I feel gratitude. If Clara had not shattered my world, I would have remained comfortable, mediocre, and blind to my own potential. Her cruel honesty was the catalyst for my rebirth. I became the man I was always meant to be because the man I was had been deemed unworthy. The pain was the fuel for my incredible journey. Today, I stand on the balcony of my penthouse apartment, Sarah's hand in mine. The city lights twinkle below us. I have everything I never knew I wanted. I am respected in my industry, loved by a wonderful woman, and most importantly, I respect myself. Clara's words, "below my standards," are a distant echo from a different lifetime. She wanted me to rise to her level. Instead, I soared past it, becoming a man on a level she could never reach again. And for that, I have only her to thank. The end.